The Spanish garden is unique in Europe, usually concealed behind whitewashed stucco or screens of evergreen cypress. They show the influence of the Moors, who had some 700 years worth of presence in Spain. See it in the patios, the orchards, fountains, pools. And we are going to get to these exquisite gardens through the lens of Michael George, who joins us today, The Gardens of Spain, the title of the book. There it is. And Michael, we were just talking before the show on what an experience it was going and traipsing around, tracking these downs, intermixing history, beautiful gardens, and the people of Spain.
Well, I'm a Brit, as you can perhaps tell, David, and it's somewhat unusual, therefore, perhaps for me to have discovered Spain only after spending 20 years of my life in the United States as a New Yorker. And I consider myself to be a photographer of architecture. And I think what appeals to me most about the gardens of Spain is their architectural quality. And that culture is not monolithic by any manner of means. It is both Roman and Arab. The Romans having spent 700 years in Spain, and the Moors were there for about 800 years. And so you have this dual culture, and it is reflected in the gardens.
How so? Do you find there are some gardens, for example, perhaps a French garden, very rigid, very defined?
Yes.
An English country garden, very loose and free-flowing. What are Spanish gardens like?
Well, you flashed up on the screen just a few minutes ago an exquisite garden, very formal, very restrained, very elegant. It's 9th century Moorish. It has been superbly restored in this century. It's a National Historic Monument. And I think the shock to a lot of people who come from this country, I drove down from northwestern Connecticut this morning, where nature is a garden. Mm-hmm. It's a shock to go to Spain because it's a brown land and the garden is an oasis. But you saw planted in that superb Moorish garden evergreens. You don't see a hint of flower color. And the cypress, as a matter of fact, is a measure of the duality of the culture, because the cypress was beloved both by the Romans and by the Moors. It was the symbol of hospitality for the Romans, and it was the symbol of eternal life for the Moors.
Well, let's get to some more of your pictures, because they really are so beautiful, and they do tell that historic as well as that jardiniere story.
Wow.
Well, here's some of that Roman influence, one would think.
Well, this is the Escorial, a superb palace, monastery, built by Philip II of Spain up in the mountains above Madrid. And here you are in the Patio de los Evangelistas, the patio, of course, being a Roman form. And this is the most enduring of garden forms, and it's now pervasive throughout the Americas. And here we are back at the Palacio de los Galeana. And this is in Toledo. And here you see both the Roman and the Arabic influence in the central pool, which was an invariable feature of the garden.
Now, have they been maintained as this for 300 or 400 years?
That last garden was a modern garden, created by one of Spain's foremost contemporary architects, but somebody working very much in the tradition.
Look at this.
This is a 400-year-old clipped boxwood hedge in Galicia.
Look at that.
And a cactus garden.
But this is more lends itself to the actual landscape of much of Spain.
This is more what you might think of Spain. Mm-hmm. Yes. And here we are on the Costa Brava, a magnificent so-called Italian garden reflecting the Roman influence, created in this century, as a matter of fact, and in private hands. And there we are in Granada. You see the cypresses. And it's wonderful to see the tradition of popular gardening. This is in Cordoba, which was the capital of the Moors when they first arrived in Spain in 711. But that tradition is maintained today in the patios of Cordoba. This is an interesting garden because this garden was in fact created by Mary Melianda Zobel, who is a Randolph from Tennessee. And here you are with an American creating a Spanish patio in Soto Grande.
There's such variety in Spain that people really aren't aware of, what with the mountains, and you have the Atlantic influences and the Mediterranean influences, that gives just about everything a chance to grow at some point, I suspect, depending on the garden.
Where you have green Spain up in the north, but most of the country, in fact, is the meseta, which is this high plateau, and so you have it freezing in winter and broiling in summer, and very difficult, therefore, to create a garden.
You've got to be tough to make it there.
Yes, indeed.
And dedicated. Michael George, you have chronicled it beautifully in the Gardens of Spain. If you are one who enjoys gardening and you think it's difficult to garden in Connecticut, take a look at this. They can do it. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, David.
Got some more coming up for you in just a moment.
Yes.